It's almost summertime here along the Gulf Coast, and with that comes the urge to get out of the house and get active. But as we age, we do need to take certain precautions before deciding to do anything involving heavy activity. Today, we have board-certified primary care sports medicine physician, Dr. Elise Gordon, with Baptist and the Andrews Institute to give us information on how to stay safe and healthy. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tell us, to get started, just tell us a little bit about your experience as a primary care sports medicine physician, and what does that mean?
A primary care sports medicine physician, besides being a mouthful, is someone who is board certified either in family medicine, internal medicine, emergency medicine, or pediatrics, and then goes on and does a fellowship in specifically in sports medicine. So we do a lot of the musculoskeletal and sometimes other, internal medicine, which we think of as cardiology, pulmonology, lungs, heart, to do with athletes. Okay, we don't operate on people. We do everything else that has to do with sports and activity without operating on people.
Well, we say Baptist, but also the Andrews Institute,
Yes.
which a lot of people do, equate with sports. Do you find that normal people, say, may think the Andrews Institute is only for athletes? Does it equally serve the public as well?
We serve everybody. In fact, most of my patients, I see a lot of kids, and I see a lot of octogenarian. I have some, 90-year-old patients, and really, I see my job not just athletes, but for fit, active people to get you back to doing what you love most, if that's walking around the block or running a marathon.
Okay, so as people get older, what activities are appropriate or not appropriate, or is it just all up to the individual and case by case?
It's really all up to the individual and case by case. I mean, in the news lately has been, Fauja Singh, who's the 100-year-old marathon runner, and he didn't start running marathons to 89. So I'm not saying that everyone needs to run a marathon, but really you need to decide what you want to do and make sure that whatever physical limitations you have, if you have any, or what other health problems, heart or lung, that those are okay and safe to go ahead and exercise.
Well, obviously running, that's a lot of wear and tear on knees and legs, but in general, are there any some activities that people should think twice about, or maybe have a conversation with their doctor before they really get into doing it quite a bit?
Yeah, anybody who hasn't been exercising really needs to think about talking with their physician, especially if they're older or on any medications, to make sure that there aren't any medical problems that are going to interfere with exercise. As a sports physician, I tend to push people a little more towards exercise and keep it a lot more open to what they want to do. And usually I recommend people to choose an exercise that they're going to do again, that they like. And running might not be it. It might be walking, it might be swimming, it might be paddleboard, it might be Zumba. It could be anything. It's whatever you find fun.
Well, when you're talking with the patient about, say, a new activity, maybe, what type of questions do they typically ask, or should they be asking you?
Well, what they typically ask is, can they do it? And I usually ask, well, why not? What's stopping you? And if they have some osteoarthritis, we talk about breaking into it a little more slowly, or if they have other, if they have any heart problems where their heart rhythm problems, pacemaker, then we really need to talk to the cardiologist about what kind of limitations. But if they don't have any, if they have some high blood pressure, exercise is actually what helps your blood pressure. Questions they should be asking is, how do I start? How fast do I need to go? And what's a complete exercise program? Because one of the things people think about, and what I've been mentioning, is all cardio. It's all things that get your heart rate up. It's, Zumba, running. But the thing that people forget and don't think about are balance training and resistance training, which is lifting weights. And that doesn't necessarily mean going and being the big bulked up bodybuilder. Doesn't mean hefting, big huge barbells around. It can be it can be just little bands. But American College of Sports Medicine and any other kind of big guru medical society recommends resistance training, especially as you get older, because you're more at risk for falls and more at risk for having a harder time coming back. And so the stronger you are in general, the better you're going to do.
What about precautions about knowing when it's time to stop for that particular day? Not to stop the activity, but what recommendations do you have on when you might be stressing yourself out too much?
Yeah, that's a good one, because starting at a young age, I have trouble teaching that one for people. So old dog, new tricks is a little trickier. So I try to teach people that listening to their body, pain is a pretty good indicator. Some of my older patients will joke, well, I have pain all the time. I say, well, what's your normal, if you're too swollen, if you're limping, if you're changing how you move to get through the exercise, that's too much.
That's great advice. And what about other, just some simple things? I know we should always have lots of water on hand when we're exercising.
Absolutely.
But what about some things like that as far as diet, maybe before or after? What are some good things that might boost energy levels? Those type of things. What would you advise?
Yeah, there's nothing really new in the way of magic. It's eat, exercise, drink plenty of water, eat right, get plenty of rest. But a couple things that people don't realize is, don't skip breakfast. Well, they should realize that. But the other thing is post-workout snack. That's the time that your body's most ready to replenish the fuel, and the fuel are carbohydrates, the things that people think are awful and terrible, but those are the things that your body uses for fuel. And that's also the time that the body has broken down muscle and needs protein to start building that muscle back, because it's one of the reasons you're exercising is to build up muscle as well as endurance. And simple things like just get a glass of chocolate milk. There's some great organic, healthy 8 ounces of chocolate milk that's got enough protein and carbs in it, and you've got that covered. Or a yogurt or fruit.
Well, before we go, one quick question.
Sure.
So say one of our viewers is sitting at home and they're thinking, I really would like to get into an exercise regime, but I have this one nagging problem. Where would they start to try to figure out what they can do?
Start with their primary physician. If their primary physician doesn't know the answer for them, they can always refer them to me. I'm happy to take anybody, but their primary then also can confer with their specialists, be that an orthopedist, sports medicine doctor, cardiologist, pulmonologist, and talk about what it is and if it's something that's going to prevent them from exercising or if they just need to show them modifications.
Okay, so there is a way to stay active over 50.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you for being here, and that's great information.
All right, thank you.
We'll be right back with more Coming of Age and why volunteers are winners.